to have distinguished guests such as Dr. Subramanian Swamy. I have circulated his biography from the website which is maintained by Dr. Krishna. You can read that because it will take, if I enumerate his accomplishments, I will take most of the time that is allotted. All I can say is that he has accomplished in one lifetime what many of us can dream of in many, many lifetimes. Besides being a scholar, he has shown enormous leadership. This is a personal note. When I was doing my graduate study in IIT Madras, it was emergency time and we were told that Dr. Swamy was coming from Harvard and coming with a distinguished career to be a part of the Indian political leadership. And we just admired him and I'm indeed privileged to meet him.
To address you here, I happen to be in Toronto at the invitation of Mr. Krishna Shastri. Every year for 2 months, that is one semester, the summer semester, I come to Harvard to teach economics. And because of Mr. Guru Ayappan, I've been traveling around the country, speaking on an issue which I think is of great concern to the Hindus wherever they are, because the issues that I'm going to speak to you about affects Hindus wherever they are. I have titled my subject today as Hindus under siege, the way out. And a question that I'm frequently asked is, how is it that a nation of more than 800 million Hindus and at least 83% of the population, how can they be under siege with such an overwhelming majority be under siege from a minority from other places? And today in Israel, it is formally acknowledged that the only country in which they went as refugees and they were not persecuted was India. The Parsis came from Persia, escaping Islamic conquest of Persia, and they lived, they were invited to India, they were invited to stay in India, and they lived as a successful community. They went to other countries also when they escaped from Persia, but they have disappeared everywhere else. The only country in which they survive as a community is the Indian community. Even in the Muslims, when they originally came as Arabs to Kerala, they were well received, and they were in fact married into the family, and that's why they were called Mapilai, in English popularly called Mopla. And therefore, the Hindu religion has not been antagonistic to any other religion. Went abroad, Hindus went abroad, but they never forcibly converted anybody. It is by sheer example, by argumentation. The whole of Southeast Asia was converted to Hindu way of thinking. Even China, which adopted Mahayana Buddhism, were mostly influenced by Hindu concepts. Hindu saints went from India, they settled in China onto benches and stand in a certain way, the way the ringmaster wants. Now, you can always ask this question: these lions are fierce animals. Why don't they just pounce on the ringmaster and finish him off? That is because the lion's mindset has been tamed, and that's why, even though it has enormous power, the lion, and the ringmaster is no match for it, because he has dominated the mind of the lions from their early childhood, therefore he is able to control them. Now when you look around, you do see that we are indeed under a siege. Let's look at all the things that are happening. Take this terrorism. This terrorism is today hitting home. Who are the refugees from Jammu and Kashmir? They are all Hindus. They are refugees in their own country. 500,000 people have been driven out, and they are living in horrible conditions in camps. And the only reason they were driven out of Kashmir is because of the Olympics. And we find in other places also, it's not being reported, it is not being widely understood, but this is happening. In Tamil Nadu, where Muslims are only 5% of the population, there are 40 town panchayats where Muslims are the majority. And you find that in those town panchayats, which some of them I have visited personally, and in fact gone to court in their defense of the minority Hindus, we find that in those town panchayats where Muslims are the majority, the Hindus are under constant compulsion to convert to Islam, or they would not get any of the civic amenities which the town panchayat gives them. Near Visharam, near Vellore, Tondi near Rameshwaram. These are two places for which I have gone to court, and in court I proved that they were being they were being deliberately discriminated against for the only reason that in that town panchayat area, the Hindus are in the minority. We find that same thing in Kerala now, even though the Hindus are a bare majority of 53%. In Meerut, in Maul, Uttar Pradesh, and you find that in the northeast, you found once upon a time the 100% of Arunachal, they expressed, although they have tribal practices, they express adherence to the religion. Today, Christian and Muslim population has grown very substantially. There has been infiltration from Bangladesh, the same name, and you find that in other states also. And you find that indeed the extent of religious conversion that is being attempted is so large that even Congress ruled states, Congress party which constantly talks of its commitment to secularism, the state of Himachal Pradesh only 2 months ago has passed an act banning conversion of a religion on the basis of inducement. And the Congress party, the centre, has nothing to show or to speak about on the answer to the question, because the Chief Minister of Himachal, Veerbhadra Singh, said, I don't care what the centre thinks, but the conversion activity in Lal Sipti area and Mandi is too strong and it will upset the balance in our state, and therefore I have to ban it, and it's all being done with money. So I think you have to recognize that these two aspects pose a powerful threat to the future of Hinduism. Let us not be complacent. There have been great traditions, great civilizations which have come and disappeared. Greek civilization disappeared. Today's Greece is not the Greece of the ancient days. Egypt is completely, Egyptian civilization has disappeared. Today's Egypt is not the old Egypt. Babylon in Iraq is not the Babylon of those days. So civilizations can disappear. We have to defend them, protect them. And we find that here we are finding, even in our modern India, the modern Indian government, which is a free democratic society, claims to be secular, you find that the Hindu institutions and icons are under threat. Take, for example, what happened to the Shankaracharya. He was arrested on a murder charge, and he was arrested on Diwali night, not in Tamil Nadu, but then he had gone on a visit to Andhra Pradesh. He was caught like a common criminal, brought in and put him in jail with other criminals. Even if you had to arrest him, and therefore you needed him under your custody for interrogation, there are ways to do it. When Sheikh Abdullah was arrested for anti-national activities, for trying to betray the country, Sheikh Abdullah was kept in a guest house. One of the nicest guest houses in Kodaikanal. It wasn't an ordinary guest house. And Moradi Desai was arrested in the emergency. He was kept in Dalmangu. There was no reason why Shankaracharya, they could not have waited till he returned after Diwali back to Tamil Nadu and asked him to stay in the Kanchi Mutt for interrogation purposes till this case is finalized. But they chose to humiliate him. That the case is bogus, you don't have to take my word for it. the Supreme Court, while reviewing the bail application of the Shankaracharya, said that there doesn't appear to be any prima facie basis for this case. He would have dismissed this case, the Supreme Court said, but for the fact that this is a bail application and the case is pending in a trial court, and we hope that the trial court will expeditiously dispose of the matter. But the trial court since then, since that Supreme Court judgment, has not proceeded even one day and is lying dormant. The case is lying there without any progress. Now, why in any other country it's unimaginable that the sannyasi of such high order, the Shankaracharya, would be treated in this way. Three were declared as not a Hindu or not part of the Balaji area, and they said one will be a Christian church, another will be a gambling casino, and the third will become a tourist center, the roadway, and so on. And but fortunately, these sadhus got into a collective mood, and they went to Hyderabad and held huge demonstrations. This was also supplemented by NRIs opposing the Chief Minister when he came to Chicago and held big demonstrations there. And ultimately, the Chief Minister saw the growing volume of agitations and he backed down and has now since issued a new order saying that all 7 hills will be part of Balaji temple and that there will be no Christian missionary activity in any of these temples. It's a major victory, and we have to owe it to Swami Dayananda Saraswati and also Bijavarat Swami and others of the Acharya Sabha, the newly formed Hindu Acharya Sabha, which consists of all Shankaracharyas and the Mahamandaleshwaras and the Akhadas and so on, all the prominent sadhus of India. The first time in our history we have such a Sabha, and their protest is everywhere. Similarly, Rama said, the under Ram was built under Ram's direction, connecting India to Sri Lanka, and the government suddenly decided one day that they will dredge a deep canal in Park Strait so that ships which large heavy ships which previously used to avoid having to go through, couldn't go through the Park Strait and go around Sri Lanka and go through it. We have no objection to such a project, but why must the project pass and by breaking the Rama Setu? There are alternative routes that could have been adopted, and in fact past commissions of inquiry had held that there are alternative routes. But the government of the day, particularly with the DMK in Tamil Nadu, they thought this is one good way of showing, insulting Sri Ram. They have a long history, the Dravida movement has a long history of insulting Sri Ram, and they thought that they would do it. Fortunately, I went to court, and the court has admitted the petition, issued notice to the government to ask them to explain why they have not chosen an alternative route, why this has not been yet declared as an ancient monument worthy of worship, and under the Act, which exists, the Parliamentary Act, and the government has still not replied, and I returned and we argued this case in the Supreme Court. One of the arguments used by the government is, well, this is a natural formation. It is not, there is no proof that Ram made it. Well, that's a funny argument to give when a matter of sacredness is involved and the question of respect for our heritage is involved. There was once a Supreme Court leader, Lady Ramaswamy Naikar, in a public meeting took Vinayaka statue, and it was made out of mud, clay, and he threw it on the ground and it broke into 2 pieces or several pieces. And then he said, "See, all the believers, I have broken Vigneshwara's statue and nothing has happened to me." Then somebody filed a case in the matter went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court, Ramaswamy Naikar replied that this I bought in a shop, this Vigneshwara statue. I paid money for it. No one has worshipped it. So I have it's my private property. I can do what I like with it. And the Supreme Court held that even if an object is not worshipped, formally worshipped, it is an object of sacredness. It is something which in the minds of the large majority of the Indian people, it is a sacred statute, and therefore you have violated the religious sentiments of the people by breaking it in order that the case should be registered against them. Now, this question of natural and man-made and proof, I mean, if I were to ask the minister of the government what is the name of your great-grandfather, he would not be able to tell you. Does it mean he is descended from the apes because he cannot identify from which man he is a great-grandson of? Or for that matter, and the money of these temples, only 6% is spent on the temples itself, and the government uses the remaining 94% for Hajj, subsidy for Hajj, for mosques, for churches, and so on, which in any other country would to unite the Hindus, make them a collective mindset to vote as for a Hindu agenda, and ensure you must be able to trace your lineage. And I think it's very easy now that the DNA results are out, DNA research results are out, to show that all Indians have the same DNA distributional structure, and that we are not very different. Depends on no matter what the caste is, what the region is, we're all the same people. So therefore, I think we are not going to be against anybody, but we certainly think that our country needs to be protected, and if Hindus are under attack, the Hindus have a right to respond. Look at what's coming out of in our textbooks. In our textbooks, the kinds of things that are being written, it's just to create a division in the minds of the Hindus, that we are not the same people. Aryans and Dravidians. What is the basis of this Aryan Dravidian? The word Aryan doesn't exist anywhere in our scriptures. The word Arya exists. Arya doesn't mean gentleman. In Tamil we say Ayya instead of Arya. But it's the same way of Brahmin. How did he become Dravid? In fact, in Maharashtra, Dravid is a very common name. So therefore, these things have been imbibed. Even in this country, our people are fighting. I'm very happy to see NRIs putting a tremendous fight in this country and the United States. You find textbooks which are being taught in schools have a totally distorted view about what our religion is, what our culture is. So consequently, we are also facing a siege. We first faced a physical siege of terrorism and physical conversion. Then we faced a religious siege of the way of the humiliation of our icons of our religion, of our temples. And now we are also facing a psychological siege where we are being psychologically prepared to accept that this country is not an ancient country, but a country which was put together by the British and was really, India is something that began in 1947. So I think this, in addition, we find that this is also being accentuated today. Today the Prime Minister says that the nation's resources, first charge will be given to Muslims and Christians because they are being deprived, and there's some such a committee which says that they have not got they are very poor and they have been deprived of proper education. Now, is that a basis for reservations? Reservations can only be for those people who have disabilities which have been imposed on them. Vedavyasa, his mother was a fisherwoman. The Rishi of Rishis, Vishwamitra, was a Kshatriya. His parents were Kshatriya. And Kalidasa was from the forest. He was a hunter from the forest. So, I don't think that all our scriptures are repositories and preserves of the Brahmin community, which is one of the propaganda which is being done, is correct. In fact, look at all the gods. Gods are not, any of our gods are Brahmins. Ramchandraji was a Kshatriya, Krishna was a Yadava, and so on. If you want to name any Brahmin, it is Ravan. Ravan was a Brahmin. And he was a Brahmin who got a varam from Shiva in Kailash, but then he became a little mad, and therefore he had to be destroyed. And therefore even Brahmins were not above the law. And this has been proved in the Ramayana. So, and we don't worship, the Brahmins of India do not worship Ravan. They worship Ram, who killed the Brahmins. And therefore, it is one nothing to do with birth. And today, of course, it has become totally irrelevant. And the earlier we get rid of it and unite, as used, the better. So, which we should not give up easily. The family system in India was a great shock absorber, and therefore the shock absorber quality of the family should be retained. not the way people have fragmented their family system in the West. So these are indications of the siege you are in, and I think we need therefore to see how we can overcome it. So I would say that if there's a way out, the way out would be to first of all inculcate the mindset. What does that mean? That means every Hindu, besides going to temples, besides celebrating Diwali, besides doing a puja, must also feel for every other Hindu, wherever he is. If a Tamilian Hindu should feel strongly for the plight of the Kashmiri Hindu. The Gujarati Hindu should feel very strongly for the treatment of Assami Hindus in Bangladesh. So Hindus must feel a sense of unity that has to be inculcated, and that inculcation process has to start. And that inculcation process can only start if we declare our national identity to be that of Hindustan, which means that we are an ancient nation of Hindus and those others whose ancestors are Hindus. That is the first thing. The second thing is, what can we individually do besides having this mindset to organize? I would say that each of us can do some things immediately. For example, we can make our children learn Sanskrit. Why? Because Sanskrit is a language which has common words with every language. Even Tamil, if you take their most Dravidian, quote-unquote Dravidian dictionary, you will find 40% of the words are common to Sanskrit. Karunanidhi may be the leader of the DMK. Yeah, Sanskrit is itself by Shankaracharya's word. Similarly, Karunanidhi's name is Karuna and Nidhi have come together. He has neither, but still he's got the name Karunanidhi. And if you ask him, if you ask what is the Tamil word for the election symbol, in Tamil it is Chinnam, in Sanskrit it is Chin. And what is that Chinnam of the DMK? They say Udayan Surya. Udaya Surya means, of course, the rising sun. And in Tamil we say Udayan Surya. So indeed, you may write an examination repeating what the teacher has taught you or the books which are being prescribed to you. At the same time, you must know what is the truth. And the truth has to be inculcated. That can be done only in temples and so on, which can become centers of learning. And finally, I would say that we must develop a sense of retaliation. If the Hindus are attacked, if the terrorists attack you must reply. If the terrorists drive away the Hindus from Kashmir, what should the government of India, which is not an anti-Hindu government, what should it do? It should ask of the 1 crore ex-servicemen in India, you ask the 1 million of them and pay them 5 lakh rupees and say, please go and settle down in Kashmir. And they know how to use weapons, they can defend themselves, and you can populate, you can warn the terrorists. If you drive away the Hindus from Kashmir, then we will see that 1 million Hindus, you drive away 500,000, we will send 1 million of the ex-servicemen to live in Kashmir. There are ways of doing it. If they try to break out our temples by throwing bombs in them like they did in Varanasi and they tried to do in Akshardham and in Gujarat, then we also can retaliate. For example, Kashi Vishwanath today is obviously a temple which has been taken over. There are records to show that Aurangzeb deliberately ordered that the cities with 100 million total population, Arabs surrounding them, because of this mindset that they intend to fight back. That is the way we can do it, and I think this is the responsibility for all of us. Otherwise, wherever you are, you ultimately would become subject to the threat of extinction, and therefore to revive this great, protect this great religion, we will have to band together, become one, forget all our other differences, and take Hinduism as the first priority for your mental focus and develop a mindset accordingly. Thank you very much.
Past president of Kalam.
Well, he is the typical my opinion about Abdul Kalam, whom I know personally very well, is exactly what I would expect a Hindu, a Muslim in India to be, and namely his open acknowledgement that his ancestry is Hindu and that Gita is as much a part for me as anything else, and he used to quote from the Gita liberally. So if every Muslim in India were like Abdul Kalam, we wouldn't have any identity problem.
You mentioned about Rameshwaram area. He belongs to that area.
Yes, he belongs to the Rameshwaram area. I know which village he belongs to, and he was very helpful to me when we took up this matter originally. He sent to the government, he got reports on it, but unfortunately as a president he doesn't have too much power, so he couldn't do very much about it. Yes, certainly young boys called Bukka and Hakka who are converted to Islam in Hampi in Karnataka. He converted them back and said, on this rock you will form an empire and drive out those people who forcibly converted you. And that's how the Vijayanagara Empire was born. And the Vijayanagara Empire covered more area than the Mughal, any Mughal including Akbar had ever covered. And they lasted longer, they lasted 300 years. Whereas from Akbar to Aurangzeb is only 150 years. Yet our history books will have a chapter on every Mughal emperor. But Vijayanagara Empire is one paragraph that there was a kingdom in South India called Vijayanagara Empire. This is a distortion of history. I don't think at all. They take what happened to Shivaji. Shivaji was inspired by Swami Ramdas. And in fact, you find right from the days of Vishwamitra that the sannyasis have always said that when you are under threat, you have to respond, you have to reply. The whole Mahabharata is about fighting wars and how to fight wars and when to fight wars. When Apat Dharma comes into operation, when it doesn't come into operation. So it will be totally consistent with the core Hindu philosophy, which is that when under threat, we respond.
But media, India has played a very naughty role.
Yes.
Even during the post-emergency election during 1977, until the media realized that Jayaprakash Narayan-led movement was going to win, they were supporting Mr. Gandhi. And I remember just about 3 days before the election, the whole media changed in favor of Jayaprakash. And even today I find the media is not impartial, but they are highly biased. And is it because they are being controlled by the upper powers which are having money, or is it because they have vested interest?
Well, there are two ways of being controlled. One is the owners of the media all have income tax problems, and so that's easy to control that way. Second, they're not very high qualification. If you just can write in English or in any language, you can become a journalist. There's less qualification to be a politician than a journalist. In politician, at least you have to go to the electorate and ask them for a vote. In the case of media, you don't have to do that. But because of their lack of qualifications, they can be bribed individually to write stories, plant stories, etc. But what you have, the examples you gave shows that media ultimately doesn't decide. So why are you bothered about it? If you consolidate, automatically the media will start writing in your favor maybe 3 days before the final event. I don't think media molds the thinking. It irritates us certainly when they write lies. But I think the more important thing is people's movement, and the media will ultimately fall in line. Yeah, I think it is time for all Hindu organizations to come on one platform. And I myself work very closely with the Hindu Vishnu Parishad and the RSS. They are organizations, particularly the RSS is an organization which is in every village in India. It's perhaps the largest volunteer organization in the world of its type, which you can't see anywhere else. There's absolutely no support from the government. So we ultimately, when it comes to finally mobilization, agitation, elections, we need an organization, and there's no need to reinvent the wheel. so to speak. I think RSS, Vishnu Parishad, and all those who are Hindu-minded should indeed come on one single platform and face the challenge. The difference being that like Iqbal said, "Sare jahan se Hindustan acha hai." The same way I am saying that Hindustan is a concept of land of Hindus, and those others who acknowledge that they are Hindus. If they are Muslims, they say, no, we are descendants of Muhammad Ghori and Muhammad Ghazni, then I certainly think that they don't belong to the nation. There's no question of frightening anybody, there's no question of targeting anybody, there's no question of programs against anybody. The fact of the matter is that all the things I said which needs to be done today by Hindus as well is not directed against Muslims at all, not directed against Christians at all. When you say foreign missionaries shouldn't come and spend money, it's the same thing as here. If tomorrow we started converting Christians to Hindus and brought money from India for that purpose, the United States government would react immediately. Any country would react immediately. And that is a question of, if somebody wants to convert, nobody can stop it. If an individual converts, nobody can stop it. But if a whole village converts, then it means that you have to investigate whether there has been an inducement which is responsible, or the top leaders of the panchayat have been purchased. And
thank you very much for your inspiring talk. It kind of goes to what you were just saying right now. Our religion has been one of the world's, if not the world's most tolerant religion for thousands of years. Do you think it is the very tolerance of this religion which is causing all these problems? Do you think this religion is too tolerant?
No, there's no such thing as it being too tolerant or tolerant enough. I think the problem with the Hindu religion is being that over the 1,000 years it has acquired a certain baggage which has to be jettisoned. The baggage of caste, the baggage of prejudice, the baggage of Aryan dominion, mold of thinking. There are issues of gender, the way the dowry system has taken root in the country. These social ills have come, and there we need not be tolerant. We should go in for a renaissance in the full sense of the word. Our problem is not tolerance, and our problem is tolerance is not based on any benevolent idea that we should treat all the others as equal or as inferior. We tolerate it. Our thing is based on the basic concept that any religion will lead you to God. That doesn't mean we think that all religions lead to God with the equal speed and so on. We think that Hindu religion puts you on a turnpike, whereas other religions may put you on a country road. We think that's a better way to achieve God. We also believe that God can be seen in this life. You can experience, anybody can experience if it follows the discipline of God's darshan. Whereas almost all the other religions say, no, you will see God only after you die, after doing lots of virtuous things here. You will be able to see Him only after you die. There are fundamental differences. We don't believe in conversion. All the other religions outside India, I'm not talking about the broad Hindu family of Hindus, Buddhists, etc. Those were founded by Hindus. I'm talking about Christianity, Semitic religions approach. Thank you. I think first of all, before we can impinge on other religious groups, we need to be clear ourselves. Take this California textbook controversy that is going on. You will find a large number of people on both sides, and both sides are Hindus. And this is because we have not developed a consensus in our country as to what are the basic precepts of our religious culture. I would not call it religion, but religious culture. And that requires to be first put across. Now, it can't be done, in my opinion, unless, of course, much of the propagation is being done by our sannyasis, and they are drawing huge crowds. You have to see the crowds being drawn by Sri Ravi Shankar or Swami Ramdev, or if you see these religious channels like Sadhana and other religious channels on TV, you find large numbers of people attend, and willingly attend. In Gujarat, for example, the sannyasis are drawing enormous crowds, and you find the same thing in Tamil Nadu. All the Swamijis, the Prajapati in Kanyakumari, or the Dayananda Saraswati or Shankaracharya Kanchi, they are Mermatur, Adigala. These are people who stay in the background. They don't get much from their names, don't come to the newspaper, but they draw enormous crowd, and they are doing it. And I am only on one dimension of it, and that is the defense of Hinduism and how to defend Hinduism. For that, I am focusing on the need to have a concept of identity, not only for Hindus, because it's easy for Hindus to identify with India, but for those others whom we want to also bring on board, and I've said that the way this can be done. And the second is how to get ourselves linked with the past of India, and that can be done by learning Sanskrit. And third, how to defend. Defend is by bonding together and having a Hindu-minded government. It need not be a pro-Hindu government, it need not be an anti-Muslim government. It should be a government which is hell-bent on ensuring that the Hindu religion gets an equal treatment to all other religions. The Hindu temples are subject to the same laws to which Muslim mosques and Christian churches are subject to. The Hindu people in their marriage and other social customs are subject to the same laws to which the Muslims will be subject to, and also to the Christians. There cannot be two laws for two communities in the same country.
Yeah, it's like everyone else is thanks a lot for
One question: what is the relationship of science with Hindu religion? Hindu religion is related to Indus Valley civilization?
No, Hindu civilization, Indus Valley is a part of the Hindu civilization. It's not the beginning of Hindu civilization. .com, you can see 7-part series on India, and it begins by saying that the notion that India is a poor country is a recent one. India was the most developed country of the world till 200 years ago, and today's growth is just a reassertion of that India, the return to India to its premier position it enjoyed 200 years ago. What a transformation in attitude that has taken place after calling India a poor nation, a divided nation which was put together with the British. Now it is saying that the notion of India is a poor country is a recent one, and that's coming in Time magazine. It's something which shows that now people are getting to know what it is. So I would say that Sanatana Dharma means without an ant, there is no ant to it. It has been an eternal religion which has gone on acquiring knowledge as it goes over time, and the scientific basis of it is now being increasingly accepted. And there have been scientists like Oppenheimer, like Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein, in fact, had said that we should be grateful to India because they taught us how to count, because arithmetic essentially was invented by the Indians.
The beauty of Hinduism, by sort of restating or translating or even coming up with original ideas like Shaiva Siddhanta and so on, which are based on Tamil language, and they were conveyed to people en masse in Tamil, so that there was more unity among Hindus by their being able to communicate and understand Vedic concepts in Tamil rather than in Sanskrit. So right now, for example, if you take a statistic, I wouldn't be surprised if the number of people who really can learn Sanskrit is so small. So to make that as part of a Hindu, Hindu feeling or Hindu unity, I find it a bit...
No, there's a basic misunderstanding of art. I never said Sanskrit should replace Tamil. No, that is the DMK propaganda whenever I speak about Sanskrit. First of all, let me say the Sanskrit Parishad's All India Prize every year, the last 4 years, has been won by a Tamil. And so to say that the Tamils have no other language except Tamil is not correct. Second is that we must explain to people that both Tamil and English and Sanskrit or any other language than Sanskrit, there are a large number of words in common. And third is that Sanskrit is now being accepted by the scientists of artificial intelligence as a language in which the knowledge should be stored in a computer. So it's now accepted as the most scientific language, and in fact Bush has announced special grants for those universities which teach Sanskrit, and Sanskrit is going to have a huge boost in this country. I hope we don't take to Sanskrit after what the Americans start doing, just as we started accepting yoga after the Americans started praising yoga. Then we said, yes, yoga is a great thing, it is ours. Let us recognize that Sanskrit was always a language which the Tamils had accepted. When the Cholas went to Cambodia, they did not take Tamil there. They spread Sanskrit there. When they went to Indonesia, they spread Sanskrit there. When our preachers went to China, they did not take Bhojpuri or Maithili there. They took Sanskrit there to teach Sanskrit. So Sanskrit is the link language of India. But everyone will have to know his mother tongue. And the Devanagari script and the Tamil script are very similar. If you write K in Tamil this way and you want to change it to Ki, you just add a matra on top of it. The same thing is in Sanskrit.